Good night, my name is Roxanne, and tonight my topic is going to be on gun control. Allen Francis, in his articles, Mass Murder, Madness, and Gun Control, purports that the U.S. has had at least 2 episodes of mass murders each year for the past 15 years. So I ask, when is it a good time to think about gun control? Before or after the senseless killing? Research suggests that legislation should focus on stricter gun control laws to lessen or eliminate the frequency of mass murders, because the access to automatic and semi-automatic weapons have led to their use in mass murders and therefore should be banned. Also, proper background checks need to be enforced prior to a person purchasing a gun. In my presentation today, I will provide supporting evidence for stricter gun control laws by first banning automatic and semi-automatic weapons, because they can be obtained too easily and they have been found to be used in mass shootings. And also, secondly, for enforcing more stringent regulations for better background checks prior to allowing a person to purchase a gun. Right here in my visual aid, you see a picture from Jenny Espino's article. It depicts the weapons that was used by Adam Lanza in the Sandy Hook Elementary shooting. Adam Lanza shot and killed 26 people, 20 of which were 6 to 7-year-olds. These weapons are all semi-automatic and very lethal. Each of the handguns can hold up to 10 to 15 rounds of ammunition, and the Bushmaster rifle here can hold 30 rounds of ammunition per magazine. That allows him to shoot at least 30 to 40 bullets in a matter of minutes, because being semi-automatic means that the bullets can be fired as fast as the shooter can pull that trigger. I mean, how different will it be if the shooter had to stop and reload his weapon, because that would give that victim some time. Now let's talk about how easy it is to access these automatic weapons or semi-automatic weapons. Did you know that there are at least 5 assault weapons that can be purchased from Walmart? Reynolds and Zornick in their article lists at least 5 of these weapons. And a Bushmaster rifle similar to the one depicted here can also be purchased at Walmart. Allen Francis, in his article Mass Murders, Madness, and Gun Control, he states that there's a hugely ignored fact that it is astoundingly easy for people or a killer to obtain a supercharged weapon and unlimited rounds of ammunition. He states that guns do kill people, and the number of people really depends on the amount of weapons used, or the number of guns used, and the number of rounds of ammunition that can be fired in a given period of time. The next slide shows a picture from the blog called Collapse of Industrial Civilization, God, Guns, and Greenbacks. This picture depicts the same types of guns as the previous slide, but what really drives home my point here is the statement at the top that says the problem isn't the guns, it is the kind of guns. In the article, Who Needs This Much Firepower?, the author states that mass killers plan their rampages, and most of them use semi-automatic handguns similar to the ones depicted here. Each of these handguns can hold up to 10 rounds of ammunition. Examples of these handguns seen here include a Glock 17 semi-automatic pistol that has a rate of fire of at least 40 rounds per minute. The Port Arthur rampage, stated by Brian Walls in his article, occurred in 1996 in Australia. And that led to the government in Australia instituting a ban, or instituting gun control measures in the form of virtually prohibiting automatic and semi-automatic weapons, and increasing or having stiffer regulations for licensing and ownership of weapons. This had led for Australia, the result of this, you've seen that Australia's mass shootings actually had a reduction in the number of mass shootings in the last 10 years. According to Brian Walls, according to the article, Who Needs This Much Firepower?, in the 18 years prior to 1996, Australia had seen 13 mass shootings, but in the past decade, they have had none. Another way in which the United States can increase or can institute gun control is in the area of background checks. Better background checks through more stringent regulations need to be enforced prior to allowing a person to purchase a gun. In the gun control overview article, it states that after several years of debate, the Brady Handgun Violence Prevention Act of 1993 was passed. This was an amendment to the Gun Control Act of 1968, and it relates to persons who require or wish to obtain a firearms license, and they were a previously non-licensed person. Now, although these background checks are in place, the regulations tend to be very lax, and there are several loopholes through which people can still obtain weapons of mass destruction. Other countries have instituted stricter regulations for licensing in order to control guns. For example, Brian Wall states that Japan requires rigorous background checks, mental and physical evaluations, and also annual government examinations or inspections of the guns. Grunwald and Newton Small states that there is some polling data to suggest that Americans do support some form of gun restriction in the area of a better background check or ensuring that a background check is done, and also by having a waiting period and decreasing or limiting the number of assault weapons or access to assault weapons. The voice of the NRA, the National Rifle Association, is very well heard due to the large numbers of their members, and they can seem to drown out any opposition to gun control. However, the government needs to ensure that the smaller voices, the voices that are calling for gun control, are really heard. So to answer my previous question, when is it a good time to think about gun control? The time to think about gun control is now. Legislation should focus on stricter gun control measures to lessen or eliminate the frequency of mass murders, because the ease with which an individual or a person can obtain assault weapons needs to be addressed, and automatic and semi-automatic weapons need to be banned. Also, stricter regulations for a detailed background check and mental health evaluations need to be enforced for anyone who is seeking to purchase a gun. The government needs to shift focus from being reactive to mass shootings and being proactive in stopping the access to automatic and semi-automatic weapons, and also in tightening the policies related to purchasing weapons. As Walter Kim asks in his article, will there be fewer murders if there are tighter gun laws? And if the answer to that question is fewer Auroras and Sandy Hooks, then would that be a worthwhile accomplishment in itself? That's a comment that I agree with, and I think that it's really important too. The aim of legislation should be prevention, so that families do not have to mourn the untimely death of their children and loved ones by the hands of a mentally disturbed individual. So do we accept mass murders as a way of life, or do we get proactive and strive like other civilized countries to institute better gun control policies? Are there any questions?
Yes. Would gun control in the form of banning automatic and semi-automatic weapons infringe upon our Second Amendment rights?
According to Walter Kim in his article, he states, what will be lost by giving it up? He was relating to automatic and semi-automatic weapons. He further expounded that, if we can do anything that would, reduce the panic induced by mass shootings, that we should. Now, banning automatic weapons does not mean banning all guns. 38 Special is a weapon that's non-automatic, and regular shotguns are also non-automatic, and still maintains the right to bear arms. So you can have weapons that are not, that does not have maximum firepower and still maintain your Second Amendment rights.
What guarantee is there that more gun control will lower mass shootings?
The article that states who needs this much firepower states that rapid fire weapons were not readily available prior to the mid 1980s. It became more available by the mid 1980s, and since then we've seen a rise in the number of incidences of mass shootings. Now, this lends to the point that maybe it is responsible for the number of mass murders we've seen in the past 15 years. However, in Australia, after instituting their ban on automatic and semi-automatic weapons, they have noticed or had a decrease in the incidence of mass murders. And so it lends to the point that it may be a better way to control guns by restricting automatic and semi-automatic weapons.